Okay, in this tutorial, we'll take a look at enhanced shattering effects for your objects. So you should be familiar with a couple of other tutorials that I have posted in a playlist under my channel. The playlist is under bullet integration, rigid body dynamics. And I show you the basics of creating these shattering effects. So now in here, let's take a look at this animation with this. Alright, so there's a little subtle difference, and maybe you can tell what it is. I tried to make it obvious. Let me look at it again when it plays again. Okay, so what's going on is there's actually three objects, three different particle systems, and each one takes place a little bit later than the previous one. And it could even be a little spaced a little bit closer together. Let's see if you can see it. Yeah, they're spaced just a little bit apart. And so what we'll do in this lesson, we'll start with, say, a different object here. Let's get rid of this here. Let's go get my display back. All right, we'll get rid of these here. Put my cursor to the center. I'll leave the wind in there for the moment, and I'll just add a cube. And I better give it a color. Okay, so to create a better type of explosive effect, in the previous lessons we were using the vertex groups and the solidify modifier, which really helped. In this case, let's first of all subdivide this cube a few times like this, and then I'll scale it in X. Like that. And maybe this will be the object that we want to shatter apart. Alright, so within edit mode, I won't worry about the vertex groups in this lesson or the solidify modifier. You can take care of that on your own. But let's see, let me go get rid of all these, and I'm just going to select some of these. Make sure I have this button deselected here so I can select both sides. And I'll get those, and I'll press P, separate by selection. Alright, so they're not part of that object anymore. And then I'll select these here, maybe to here, and do the same thing, P, separate by selection, and then the last one I'll select those like this. So what I've really done is I've just gotten rid of the main object, and now it's just three separate objects in here called cube1, cube2, and cube.003, like that. Alright, and the reason I did that is now I want to apply particle systems to each one. So I'll go get a particle system for this one, and maybe I'll start the animation at frame 60 and I'll end it at 61. And then maybe I'll make it lifetime of 200. And this one I'll start frame 61, end it at 62, make it 200. And this one 62, 63, and 200. Actually, you could even make them closer than that. You don't even have to make them a frame apart. Works even better if you're really trying to do some subtle effects. And this works great for if you're doing rendering of animations. It's not so good if you're working in the game engine because you can't do this kind of keyframe animation that you need to do. But sometimes I'll set these apart by half a second, or not a half a second, by half a frame even. Right, so now I have those set up, and the one thing, remember, that's really useful is for each one of them, crank this random value way up. And this one too, way up. Randomness really helps. Like that. And let me see, in the plane, make sure your plane has a collision plane set to it, and I have this particle damping set way up, because otherwise they bounce up and down kind of like a super ball and doesn't look very realistic. And then I have a little bit of a wind object in here, just a little bit of wind blowing away from the scene, not much, negative 1.719 in that sense there. Alright, so let's just run it, see if it's set up right. Get rid of this all day. Oh well, of course that's because we forgot, I forgot the explode modifier. So you need an explode modifier on each one. Okay, now let's try it. All right, well, so, and then one thing, since some of those shards now, since I extruded it out to the side, some of those shards are pretty big, see, coming sideways like that. So I'd probably want to come in here and do Control R and maybe add a bunch there, you know, Control R. Just, it's kind of the way the subdivision of the mesh works, so you'll see how the difference is on that. A lot more shards on that, like that. So that kind of gives you a pretty good idea. So if you combine that with your solidify modifier and the force that we used in the previous tutorials and the wind and things like that, and then the colors like I had done right at the beginning of the animation, then you can really start doing some nice effects. And there's even more we can do, but I'll wait for another lesson on that. Okay, I'll see you in the next lesson.